Yo, guys and gals, it's Tripl-L, and now let's talk about Fairy Tail chapter 525. I'm actually doing a Fairy Tail chapter on time. Woo, we did it. So, why was His Majesty's Why was His Majesty's child not loved? That is the chapter title for this chapter of Fairy Tail. And ultimately, I feel structure-wise, things are a bit rushed, and you can kind of tell that when you have the transition sequences, because what ends up happening is that you get, I think, the flashback to Rakid first, then you do the transition over to Mavis very quickly to establish that both Rakid and Mavis are en route. Then you have the transition over to Purihito, and that transition is really just there to justify, or to at least like make the reader think, oh whoa, we're picking up on that plot thread. And then we have the transition. Rakid somehow got to the Fairy Tail Guild in time. He got there really quick. Those four events all happened very quickly, and when you have those things happening in that chapter like that, it feels kind of rushed. But that's about my only real note that I have for the structure of the chapter, like how it's crafted. But that's just very interesting to note that I really do think at this point the author just wanted to get to that moment at the end with Zeref blasting a hole through the kid, because it's a loud moment. It's a moment that will make people talk. It's a very climactic moment. But let's actually talk about, is that justified? Does that make sense? Because this is actually a big point about Zeref. So I think everything is justified within the character that Mashima has established for Zeref, right? That curse of contradictions is like the ultimate plot device for excusing a lot of Zeref's behavior. I did see it in the comments for a lot of the manga reading sites that some people were not very happy with Zeref just opting to blast a hole through his supposed child when he could have just had Natsu killed there. Zeref is talking that he has to kill Natsu because that's the only way to go through with this. But then once he has his instant win ticket there, Rakid, he just chooses to blast him away. And the thing is, if you were to apply logic to that situation, yeah, technically you are right. He should have just let Rakid do whatever he wants to and just annihilate Natsu. But when you keep in mind that Zeref is a very crazy character, and that in this chapter we had visible indications that he was being kind of insane, and you keep in mind the rhetoric that he has used throughout the majority of his appearances, you'll realize that applying logic to him is probably one of the stupidest things you could do because of the curse of contradictions. The curse of contradictions has created a character who has no idea what he feels, nor does he have any idea what he thinks he feels. When the boy gets blasted at the end of the chapter, not only did we have the kind of foreshadowing from August, and it climaxes in August asking, why wasn't this kid loved when parents should love their children? It was pretty obvious that we were going to see something brutal. And for why it happened, look, Zeref was given that curse because he got so obsessed to the point of saving his little brother. There is no way that he was going to let anyone kill Natsu, because that would be a contradiction, right? It would be a contradiction for him to let anyone kill Natsu. It would be a contradiction for him to let Natsu die. And the curse of contradictions is Zeref's character. And, props to Mashima, because the curse of contradictions and the way he's portrayed it so far, he's made it into a situation where you can really justify any of Zeref's behavior so long as you keep in mind, or you come at it from the angle of, this is a contradiction, so he wouldn't really know what he's thinking at that point in time. And look, again, we know that Zeref sometimes has no idea what he's thinking, because he struggles when it comes to those really intimate feelings, when it's talking about feelings of enjoying something, but also, wait, no, I can't love things, because if I love something, it's gonna die, so I just see people as pieces, but I ultimately end up enjoying my nation. Zeref is ultimately the worst person to have helming a plan, because all it takes is for a contradiction to arise, or all it takes is for a situation to be made into a contradiction, and he will just fly off the handle. He's mentally unstable. That god that gave him that curse has really messed with him. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what he says he's gonna do. All that matters is that he has an obsession with Natsu, and at the end of the day, all his actions are gonna revolve around Natsu and Natsu's well-being, no matter how he frames it, no matter how he says that he has to kill the boy or not. So, you know, at the end of the day, seeing Rakid actually get blasted by what was supposed to be his father, you know, it's pretty unfortunate. It kind of does suck for the character, because from the point of view of this war, from an objective point of view, he just went in there and he did something super useful. He dragged himself out of defeat and he got there in time to help his dad, but his dad doesn't give a damn. Now, in the chapter, it brought up the Porohito question that he was asking himself, to let die or to let live. And you know, I'm not buying it. I'm not gonna buy into that. I'm not gonna buy into that plot. You know, it's people been talking about it, but August is already wrong. Way back when Rakid got beaten, August said that the only person that could defeat that child or stop that child was his mother, and then we got the shot of Mavis implying that that's his mother. And you know, it might still be, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna follow what the Dragon Slayer said, what Sting said, that they smell too similar, that Rakid and Natsu smell super similar. That to me is the ultimate indication that they were made in almost the same way. Yeah, maybe Rakid has some of Mavis's DNA, some of her genetics in there, but I really don't think he is a full-blown baby. I don't know. I don't know how that could happen. I think this is just a giant bait and switch, or it's going to be explained and it's going to be something else that we're not really expecting. But yeah, that part, guys, let me know what you think about that part down below. Who knows what's going to happen after this. The next chapter is My Name Is, and it doesn't really seem like it's going from anywhere. It doesn't really seem, you can't really tell where it's coming from. If I was to make a guess, I'd say maybe it's the flashback of Rakid and just what he did in life and how he got to this point. Now, there ultimately is the subplot of August, Gildarts, and Kana, and that's okay. The action for the chapter overall as well is pretty good. And oh, but yeah, before I digress, no, the August and the Gildarts thing, August is provoking him. They're talking about the idea of love between parents and children, and that's really just framing the situation that happens at the end. Although, when you look at the notion that August is bringing up, I find it to be a very naive notion, because it just doesn't make sense in all situations. Like, Fairy Tail isn't an ideal world. Had Fairy Tail been an ideal world where love between parents and children was maintained, then yeah, you know, I'd be okay with that discussion. But in this very same arc, you have the situation of Ares and Eileen, which is a very complex emotional situation, and the way he handled it was, I think, pretty good. I mean, there's some aspects of Ares' treatment of Eileen's dead body that's kind of questionable, but when they were portraying the idea of love between parent and child, you know, they did it in a very mature way with that segment. But then you have August, and he's just talking, a parent has to love his child, and he seems to be stumped by that. No, that doesn't make sense. That's a very naive point of view for a character who is characterized by his ability to know so many magics. Look, if he knows so many magics, that's a mark of intelligence. This is a studious man. Of course, then you could argue, well, he just knows the book stuff, so it makes sense that he wouldn't understand fundamental things. And to that, I would say, yeah, that's actually a really good point. That said, I think that whole dialogue is really just to establish how terrible Zaref is at the end, and it doesn't really work that well when you keep in mind the context of the story. It just sounds like a really naive banter, and ultimately Gildart's getting provoked by a very small quip is both speaking of the passion of Gildart's character, and also just that the author just needs these moments to happen. They don't really feel that genuine. Now, is that a bad thing? No, not really. You know, it's there to convey the point of the story. It's there to convey a message, and it's there just to set things up. Because we are moving through this arc at a relatively brisk pace, you know, these things, some delicacy is sacrificed, and we just have to keep going and the moments just keep rushing in like that. Now let's see. Ultimately, I really enjoyed this chapter. I enjoyed seeing Natsu and Zeref have at it. I enjoyed seeing Natsu get his one up on it. I enjoyed seeing Zeref blast Rakid. I enjoyed generally seeing Mavis pop up and talk about telepathy and how she's got something going on. And I ultimately enjoyed the Purihito flashback. I thought that was really well done. You know, it's got a lot of really nice elements. And then the only thing that I really just found slightly lesser was just the August speech. Just because this guy's supposed to be a very intelligent character, but he's speaking in such naive terms or such black and white terms, it doesn't really work, especially when you're coming off of the Eileen and Erza dynamic that was established in previous chapters. So overall though, I really like this chapter. I think Zeref's character is probably like one of the funnest ones to watch, just because he's so irrational that the plot can work through him in just the most convenient ways while also being very entertaining. So, you know, at the end of the day, that's all I can really ask for. Make them something that I can justify in my head and also make it entertaining. But anyway guys, let me know what you thought down below, and yeah, let's leave it there. Till next time, I hope you have a great day.